Hey guys, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of introvertdatingsuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be looking at a message from a Reddit user who finally was able to figure out why it is that they were sucking so hard at dating and what they were able to do to change that. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new videos. So I wanted to go over this particular message because as I was doing my research on Reddit, I came across this message, and the person that was talking really seemed to really understand why it was that they were doing so bad at dating and what they had to do in terms of changing their mindset in order to really finally understand why it was they were constantly having negative success with dating. And so for those of you that are sometimes in that same realm where it's like everything you do seems to not work out and it seems that people are just against you and you're always complaining about dating, this is going to be an eye-opener. And for more of these, you can always go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, check out my eBooks, audiobooks, freebies, and of course, you can check out my video courses as well as sign up for one-on-one coaching. And if you like the messages you hear in the show, click on the tip jar tab to show your support as well. Also, if you have any questions you want answered on one of these shows, you can write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com. All right. So let's go ahead and get into this person's message. I think it's going to be quite eye-opening for you guys. The title of it is, I finally realized why I suck at dating, and I think this might help some of you. They go, if there's one thing I've learned about most dating advice subreddits is that many people don't actually want advice. They just want to complain. And that's true not just on Reddit, but in real life. I've had so many people come to me and complain and say, Harry, my dating life is X, Y, and Z, and it sucks, and all women suck, and people are just horrible in general. And I'll try to explain to them, or I'll try to help them try to see rather why it is that could conceivably not be true, and that there's evidence out there that guys just like them can in fact get women, but they seem to want to stay in the negative. And it's a bad habit that people get into whereby they want to stay in the negative space, in part because honestly, we're trained from a young age to get attention by complaining about things. And it's an easy way to try to connect with somebody else. When you complain about something and they complain back, it's almost a way to bond with people. But unfortunately, that goes into a lot of things to where we go from just complaining about stuff all the time to complaining as victims and not actually realizing that we could actually change that if we would just kind of shift our views about things. Complaining and venting is an important coping process, but at some point, if you're not making effort to change your circumstances, the problem is you. It's like that old antidote of like, if you're in a room full of 4 people and one person stinks and the other 4 people don't stink, then maybe you're the one that's stinking. A lot of times people don't want to admit that they could in fact be the problem. One of the biggest parts of your being able to date a lot better than you are now is having that recognition that, hey, you know what? If I've gone after like 10 women and all 10 women have gone away, sure, a couple of them might have had some issues, have been crazy or whatever, but like there's still 8 more there. Was every single woman that I tried to date, was it always the other person's fault? Or was there something that I was doing to actually make that person want to go away or lose attraction? And once you're able to have that realization, it's actually like an eye-opening truth of you now have control to change that narrative, because you can start doing things that are going to allow you to not be as non-successful in dating and start knowing how to do the right things. That's why I built a whole website for you guys, because I was the introvert that had a problem at one time, and there was nothing out there really to help me out. So once I was able to figure out things, I wanted to be able to help introverted guys just like you to figure out this whole thing in a way that's going to make you less anxious and more successful, okay? But there's help out there if you're only willing to admit first that you could be part of the problem. Continuing. They go, what gets me the most is the sweeping generalizations about how women only date guys who are 6 feet, make 6 figures, and look like models. Even though every day I see couples at the grocery store, the park, Walmart, average couples who aren't models or rich doing average things with each other. And here's the reality, guys, that you might think to yourself, I'm just an average guy. What woman's going to want me? But honestly, there are more average guys getting with average women in this world than there are 10 and 20 guys getting with 10 and 20 women in terms of the rating system and stuff like that. So while you're sitting there thinking no woman's going to like me or whatever, there are women out there that are dating guys just like you right now. What is the difference between them and you? The difference is they learned somewhere along the way that they needed to become the person they needed to be in order to successfully talk to women and connect with women. And that is a skill that you can have too. And hey, I'm telling you this as a guy that at one point thought I'm just a goofy looking black dude and I'm not hood and I'm not really that sleek and smooth suave and I don't really have a high paying job and women aren't going to like. And in my journey of dating, I found all those things to not be true. But the only difference was that when I had the mindset that those things would hold me back, it did. Even at the times when women were showing me the contrary, I was so stuck in my own, we'll say my own truth at the time, but it was really a lie, that I couldn't even see it, or I think it was just a joke, or it's not really a thing that I'm seeing because my reality is actually over here where I can't be successful. And once I got off that train, it became a lot easier to be successful at dating. Yes, being conventionally attractive will give you an advantage in the dating market, but getting so hurt and frustrated at this fact is like a broke person blaming their lack of money on trust fund kids, because trust fund kids are a small percentage of people who actually have money. The majority of people who have money are working for it. Exactly. So there's this lie that you might feed yourself that if you're not conventionally handsome or have a conventional high-paying job, that you can't get women. But again, most women are looking for things outside of what you may even think you might need to have. You might think a woman needs you to have a high-paying job. Most women marry guys that are making between $30,000 to $50,000, $60,000 a year. And that's enough for two people to live on and even build a family with. But again, you might be buying into this lie that you told yourself that women are just so, all about looks and all about money and all about these things that if you're looking around you, you'll realize most women aren't going for those kind of guys. Like, they might want that kind of guy, but at some point, most women realize, like, hey, you know what? If I just find a guy that's going to treat me well and can take me out on a couple of dates and show me attention and affection and be kind and we have a good conversation, then I can make that work. Surprisingly, a lot of women. So you got to get out of this mind frame of thinking about women wanting one thing when a multitude of women are going to want you as you are right now. Continuing. My theory is people like this defeatist attitude because if they can blame external circumstances or things they can't change, they don't have to go outside of their comfort zone to change. And I'll say this also, people feel as though if they can people blame their external circumstances because their egos do not want to allow to admit to themselves that they are wrong. So think of it, if you had to admit that you're part of the problem, that means your ego has to admit that you have a fault and that you are actually not good enough as you are right now to attract women. And I know you might not want to admit that, but again, there are guys like you right now that are getting the women that you want. So you can't keep blaming all these outside things because ultimately the world doesn't care. Like if you're just like, well, because women X, Y, Z, okay, fine. So what's the world supposed to do about that? Is the world going to change how it operates? Are women going to change the things that they're attracted to? Are women going to stop being turned off by some off-putting things that you are doing? Or can you just learn those things and then get the results that you want by simply putting your ego aside and recognizing that you too could be learning something? Hey, I'm a dating coach. I've been successfully dating for years now, and I'm still a student of the dating game. Why? Because I like to make sure I'm up to date on my knowledge. I still like to make sure that I'm aware of what women are liking, and if there's a shift and change in the way women are thinking about things and what they're attracted to, I want to be on that wave. But the point is, I don't ever think that I know so much that I can't learn more. And so if you're at a point now where you're not getting any women at all, you can't be thinking it's always them, because there are things you could be learning that could actually put you in a better position to get the women you want. Continuing. So then they say, I know because I was doing the same thing. Now, this is interesting. I have the interesting experience of being a bisexual woman who dates both men and women. So although I don't have the male experience, I do think on average the struggles are the same. Difficulty meeting / attracting women and difficulty keeping the men I was interested in. Now, now notice I hadn't used any he or she pronouns up to this point. It's because I didn't want you guys to steer away from the message because a woman's writing this article. Because here's the truth, is that there are differences in terms of the approach game and certain aspects of the dating game about the way women perceive it and go about it and the way that men go about it. But the things that she's talking about in terms of like the difficulty meeting and attracting women, difficulty keeping men and stuff like that, and in your case, it'd be keeping women. These are general things that both men and women are going through. And it's interesting from a bisexual woman's perspective because she's had the experience of going after women, which can sometimes be a lot harder if she's going after women who typically lean more towards being straight, okay? But in terms of the struggle she's specifically talking about, these are things that I know you guys have been talking about because I get those messages all the time about like, oh, I'm having a hard time meeting women. I don't know how to date on dating apps. And I can't seem to get together with the women that I really, really want to get. Like, it's the same thing she's talking about. So her message is is actually very, very relevant, and as is her experience. Continuing, she says, I would blame the dating market. I would blame this is what she would do as a result of trying to be the complainer and be a defeatist to the cause, okay? She would do things like, she would blame the dating market. I would blame modern dating culture. I would blame my location, the fact that people just want attention or the chase. I would blame anything I could blame as long as I didn't have to blame myself. And then it hit me. I wouldn't even date myself. So let's go back to what she just said, okay? So how many times have you or some other guy you know done this stuff where you blame, it's the way the dating market is, or it's where I live. I live in a big city that's too big, or I live in a city that's too small, or women just want to chase, or women that are chasing me are not the ones that I really want. It's like all these excuses that you put out there that result in you being single. So whether you decide to do something to fix that, or whether you decide to keep complaining about it, the result's going to be the same. Is you are going to be single if you're doing actions like this woman's talking about, okay? So then it hit her. I wouldn't even date myself. She says, the people I'm attracted to are nothing like me. I'm insecure, timid, care way too much about what others think about me, and am a people pleaser. How many of you guys out there can relate to this? Because I was at one point like this. I was very anxious around women. I was very insecure about whether they would like me or not. I definitely cared way too much about a lot of the women that I wanted to go after in terms of like if they talked to me a certain way, if they thought about me or not, if they liked the things that I was getting them or not, how they would, if they would go away for days and not talk to me, I'd be in a worry of what did I do? And oh my God, like why won't they talk to me? Like these are the things that can hold you back because these are behaviors that women do not find attractive, especially in a man. If they're trying to go after a masculine man who's a little bit alpha, women typically tend to be in this space where they're at many times more insecure about things, their looks, their jobs, how other people, whether they like them or not. Both of you guys cannot be that way. So when she's feeling that way, she's looking for her man to be that rock she can go to kind of say, hey, babe, you know what? You're cool. You're great. You're whatever. Like, buck up. You're going to be fine. You're going to be great out there. But if she's coming to you and you're nervous and anxious and all this stuff also and insecure, then that's not going to bode well for her esteem because she's trying to get it up by coming to you and you're also in the same place where you're kind of nervous and stuff and now it's putting hers back down and women aren't going to like that. You can't both be doing that. So that's why you can't be like this. If you want to, especially if you want a woman that's going to be wanting to stay with you, want to be kind and caring and look after you and all of this stuff, you can't be this kind of guy because that kind of woman is not going to stay around this kind of guy, She says, the people I'm attracted to were all confident, charismatic, didn't care what you thought of them, took chances, and didn't internalize rejection. And this is the kind of guy that you got to become the kind of guy that ultimately is indifferent to outcomes, is secure in who he is. You don't have to necessarily be charismatic all the time, but you should be pleasant to be around. You should be somebody that can know how to crack a joke or two and not take things too seriously because those are the guys, even as an introvert, that will typically have friends that are more loyal and women that want to come to them and date them and do things for them. All right? Continuing. She says, I'd go on a date and it'd either be an interview or I'd be fumbling over what to say, so concerned of their perception of me. I've heard so many women say, going on a date with this guy was like going on an interview. He just kept asking me question after question after question after question after question versus it feeling like a natural flowing dialogue. So that's something you can work on also is how to connect and how to conversate with women. And I got a whole bunch of stuff at the website you can look at that some of it's free that you can look at to kind of get into the idea of like how to converse with women either in person and on phone apps and through text messaging and stuff like that. Continuing, she says, I wasn't being happy, giggly, or flirty out of fear. I was so concerned over what some random ass stranger I might never see again thought about me, and it showed. I would look at my friends who were successful in envy. I would go on dates where I didn't flirt or make any moves, and then wonder why I was consistently getting friend zoned by women I was meeting off dating apps. So, how many of you guys have that problem? You get a date with a woman, and you go out, and you're like, okay, I'm going to be the guy that's different from all these other guys. So no sex jokes, no touching, no hinting that I want her physically in any way. And then at the end of the night, you don't get the kiss. And then the next time she sees you, she's like, I think we should just be friends. I'm feeling more of a friendship type vibe. And you're wondering what happened? Well, you were too afraid to create a vibe of desire, of sensuality, of flirty playfulness. And those are things that women need to be able to further build feelings of wanting to jump in bed with you, of wanting a relationship with you. If you don't present those things, women can't feel those things, and then she's not going to want to continue to try to be around you when you want to get those things, because she's going to be thinking, this guy, he didn't try it on the date, and now he wants to. Like, this is too weird. I've already passed that. feelings are already gone, okay? But this is what happens when you don't work on yourself and you blame the whole world for your dating problems, is that you're not able to see the mistakes like this that you're making that could be changed if you only were aware that they were happening. Let's see. She said, I started asking a few of my friends, both men and women, how often they get rejected. The ones who I know consistently attract new people told me they get rejected often. My best friend, she's bi, is beautiful, intelligent, feminine, thin, young, and even in LGBT spots where she approaches women, she gets rejected most of the time. But she's also very successful with women too. And I think that's the thing that especially a lot of introverts don't get, is that, you know, if you're an introvert, you're thinking, okay, I want to try to better my chances, so I won't ask out a whole lot of women. I'll just ask out the ones that I've pinpointed could be possibly good for me. And then you end up not getting any women. And when people ask you, well, how many women have you asked out? Your number's like, oh, I've asked out like one or two and they both rejected me and it was just so horrible. But really, people that are in relationships, it ain't like they asked out that one person and just hit the jackpot. Most of the time, it's going to take quite a few asks. I've had periods of time, like stretches of time, where I would date women for like 6 months to a year, and I'd be going on dates here, dates there. I'd go on 1 or 2 dates with one person, maybe 3 or 4 dates with another person, and it wouldn't result in a hookup, and it wouldn't result in a relationship. But I had to ask out a lot of women to be able to get to the part where I started getting successes to where I could, you know, be with a woman and then date her for like 3 or 4 months and have a really good time. And then maybe that didn't work out, but we had that experience, and then I could go into somebody else and that could last for like 3 or 4 years. But that only happens if you're putting yourself out there. And that first rejection is always going to suck. Like, no matter how much confidence you think you have, no matter how ready you think you are, no matter how much you think this person is going to say yes, I can guarantee you, for most of you guys out there, the first woman that you ask out, you're going to get rejected. And you should be jumping up and down when that happens, because that lets you know, yes, this is one person I know does not want to date me, but that means there's somebody else out there that will. And the more you ask, you'll become less nervous. You'll become less anxious. It'll start to sting a lot less as women say no to you, but eventually you will build to somebody saying yes to a date, and then yes to a hookup, and then yes to 2 months dating, and then yes to 3 months dating, and then yes to a relationship, and then yes to a proposal, and yes to a marriage. But you don't get any of that if you don't start. And so you have to will yourself out of being so anxious. And part of that is, again, practice. This is why I advocate you guys so much to do online dating, because even if you just go in there and just talk to women, just the psychology of being able to reach out to a woman and have her respond back will let your brain think, oh crap, women actually respond to me. And if you do that enough times, you'll be able to do it online, and then you'll be able to do it in the real world where you won't be so in your head about it. And then you'll become more natural, more relaxed. And then women will feel that natural relaxation in you when you're approaching them, and they won't think that, oh, this guy's fearing me, this guy's putting me on a pedestal. You know what? He seems very easy to talk to. And just by way of doing that, that will help you get women. But again, it all starts with recognizing what your shortcomings are so you can fix them. Continuing. She says, last night I matched with a woman on Bumble. I don't get many matches with women. I told her, let's be spontaneous and get drinks. We had barely even had a conversation, and she said, screw it, and agreed. I had no expectations. We met, I flirted, I made the first move, and guess what? It worked. We made out. I've had a similar experience whereby a few years ago, I was on one of the dating apps. I saw a cute looking woman, and I sent her a message and said something like, oh, you look nice or whatever there. And she sent me back things saying, thank you. The next message I sent to her was, hey, so this is going to seem kind of odd, but we should just go ahead and just go out now. Like, why spend time on this app? We could just go out now, have a good time. There's no pressure to do anything. I just want to take you out for a nice meal because I'm hungry and you got to eat at some point. So let's do that. And she said, sure. We went out. We had a good time. And later that night, we hooked up. I had no expectations. All I was going to do was take her out to show her a good time in whatever capacity that meant. But in my head, I thought it was going to just be dinner, then drop her off at her place. And she was cool to do more because that whole night, there was no pressure. There was no me having to push to an agenda for something to happen. But again, this happened because early on, prior to me meeting this woman years ago, I recognized that me on first dates could sometimes be too uptight and too, interview style questioning a person and not really making any flirty moves. And I had to learn over time what flirty moves were okay and what flirty moves, like you don't want to be too overtly sexual on the date itself unless it gets to that point. But during the actual part where we're walking and talking and eating and stuff like that, I knew when to make certain touches and when not to. I knew how to say certain flirty things that were giving innuendos to things, but not being too blatant. And I teach all this at my website, in my various courses that I have there. So check out the products tab. You can check out some of the courses that I have that walk you through exactly how to do this thing. Okay. okay? But that allowed me to have these kind of successes. Now, it doesn't happen all the time, but the point is that I'm able to fill out those moments, and even if I try for it and it doesn't work, I'm not so butthurt like, oh my God, this is right. I knew this was going to happen. I was going to have a success today. And like, you have to redefine what it means to be successful with women so you can have a better shot and feel better about the moves that you're making. And also recognize the moves that you can add to your repertoire that are perfectly fine and that women are going to want to feel from you. Continuing, she says, I did mention dating apps, but I'm also taking steps to be more proactive in approaching people in person, which is what y'all need to do if apps don't work for you. Seriously, sitting there swiping endlessly and not putting yourself out there in real life is likely not going to work for most. Most of the guys I know who are super successful with women don't use apps, and they're not supermodels either. They just approach women a lot and they get rejected a lot, but they also get success a lot. Now, on this part, obviously, I disagree in the sense of like, I believe that dating apps can actually be a very successful way for introverts in particular to be able to have dating success. And if you want to learn more about that, you can check out my smart digital dating program at the website in the products tab. But even for you guys that may not have the best success when it comes to digital app, phone dating and stuff like that, you can still be practicing your openers. You can be practicing your conversation skills. And even if no woman whatsoever wants to meet up with you on a dating app, running through those various openers and those various conversations is like basically like using an app simulator. And those same openers that work decently enough on apps, once you get the ones that start working really well, you can use those same openers when you meet women at parties, when you meet them through friends or at dinner things or whatever. And you'll find that you'll have stuff in your arsenal to already use because you've practiced it so extensively on these dating apps. So again, my personal opinion is that you can have success on dating apps, but even if you don't, it's a great way to simulate being able to approach women and then getting more comfortable with it so you're more apt to want to do it in real life. Finally, she says, I hope this might have helped some of you be the person you'd want to date. Take risk. Before you blame everybody else for your situation, look internally. You will get rejected early and often. Stop internalizing it. Stop putting so much stock and value in people who literally don't know you, don't care about you, and don't deserve to live rent-free in your head. Put yourself first. Don't people please. People are attracted to people who don't put them on a pedestal. Exactly. And especially the part about internalizing it. Recognize what she said. You might be putting so much stock in this one person that you met on this app or this one person you met at this party. This thing absolutely has to work out. And if it doesn't work out, it's going to just destroy your entire world. And the more pressure you put on the situation, the more pressure you're going to put on the woman, the more she's going to feel like you're trying to force this thing to have to work, which means she's now not feeling that it's her choice to make this work. And people don't like having their choice taken away from them. So she feels like that you're forcing her to have to choose you. The have to part is going to turn her off. Versus going out there and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the best version of myself that I can be. I'm going to take this woman out. I'm going to show her the best time that I know how to show her. And at the end of that, she wants to go on another date. That's great. That's the other thing too, is don't think that these dates that you go on, these first few dates, have to go right into relationship mode. I tell you guys all the time, on average, it takes 2 to 3 months for a woman's feelings to be solidified for you. So during that time, all you're doing is saying, hey, you want to go out? She says yes or no. Great. Take you out on this date. You plan the date, you take her showing a good time, and then repeat. And if you do that enough times, you'll eventually get results. It might not be with that first girl that you do that with, but it might be with the 4th or 5th girl. You have to put yourself out there and not be afraid to learn the moves you need to make that happen, okay? If you want to learn more about what moves to make, how to approach women, what to say to them on the phone, how to text them, what kind of dates to take them on, do yourself a favor, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the products tab, check out the eBooks, the various freebies and things I have to offer, and get yourself educated on how to get women, because this is not a struggle that you have to continue living with. Are you tired of not knowing why it is that you were able to get a woman on a date and then all of a sudden after 2 or 3 dates she doesn't want to see you? Are you wondering why a woman that seems so interested in you is suddenly flaking on you? Do you want to figure out once and for all what steps you got to take during those 2 to 3 months to really help solidify her feelings, to how to be able to gauge whether or not you're being around her too much or when to kind of pull back, and how to use that as a means to trigger her attraction to go to unheightened levels? If you want to know that stuff, it's at the website. If you don't, that's cool. You can keep watching these videos also, because these videos will definitely help you. But the meaty stuff, the stuff that's really going to help you change your dating life, is at the website. So check out the website, and I hope to be able to help you get the women that you want and get yourself out of your head so you can finally have the dating life you've always dreamed about. Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode, and catch new episodes right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out these other episodes so you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.